Hey, what's up, everybody? Bird the Man here, and today I got some movie reviews for you.
Welcome to Let's Talk with the Birdman, the series where it's turning into live movie reviews. I got 3 movies to review for you today. The first 2 are going to be here in this recorded setting, and then the other is going to be one I recorded earlier while streaming live. So the first one is going to be The Suicide Squad. All right, so you probably already know what The Suicide Squad is, but I'll give you a quick rundown. Basically, The Suicide Squad is the sequel to Suicide Squad, and it tells the story of Amanda Waller and her group of mercenaries and bad guys all teaming up to do odd jobs for her that, you know, I guess she can't call the Justice League for. In this one, we see that Amanda Waller has been recruiting for a long time. She has a whole new batch of suicide squatters, and she sends these guys on obviously a mission where, you know, it's gonna result in a high chance of these motherfuckers dying. So they're sent to this South American island where the current government overthrew the previous one, and now they're like this anti-American regime. So they're sent in to destroy this lab called Jotunheim, which houses like this secret Nazi experiment called Project Starfish. And you guys probably already know Project Starfish is dealing with Starro the Conqueror. So that's shown in the trailer. That's not a spoiler. As you could probably guess, not everything goes right, and as their name suggests, a ton of people die, and yeah, the Suicide Squad. So this movie was directed by James Gunn. You guys probably know him as the director of the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise, and damn, does this movie resemble that movie, but like hard R. And that's something that I really liked about this movie. It's hard R, but it's like funny, like really funny. And it's not MCU funny. It's more like Deadpool funny. And overall, I feel like this movie like would fit Deadpool perfectly. Like if you loved Deadpool, this movie feels like Deadpool 3. And I don't mean that in the same way as the people that were saying, oh, you know, the first Suicide Squad movie felt like Deadpool ripping off Deadpool. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that this is hard R, gory, funny as hell, like Deadpool. And I think that's the most enjoyable aspect of this movie. It's that it's really funny, which it's hard to describe how funny this movie is. It's like a joke a minute, but again, it's not like MCU joke a minute where like the jokes are PG-13. It's like actual adult humor. Like they talk about, and I'm, you know, paraphrasing here, dicks and vaginas. Like they actually show a guy's dick in the movie, which is something that movies usually don't do. And the gags in this movie are really top tier, I have to say. Like, okay, you have Idris Elba playing Bloodsport, and then you have John Cena playing Peacemaker, and they're competing with each other to see like who's the best killer, or, you know, who can upstage the other. And they have a whole gag where they're going through a jungle killing people, and it's so funny, and it's the setup for this big joke, and my theater lost it. So I think you guys are really going to enjoy that part. Also, the action in this movie is pretty good too. You had scenes with Harley Quinn fucking shit up. You had scenes with Bloodsport and Peacemaker just wrecking stuff, and God, it's so good. It's really fun to watch and cool to see these comic book characters just getting off, man. Especially Bloodsport, again played by Idris Elba, and I really think he crushes this role. You know, there's just this charismatic thing about Idris Elba. You know, he reminds me a lot of The Rock in that they just elevate whatever movie they're in. Even if the movie's not good, they're going to be good in the movie, and that is the case here, even though the movie I think is pretty darn good. Idris Elba just elevates this character, and you know, he has these cool gadgets and stuff. It's just, if you're a fan of the material, like I feel like you are going to like what they do here. The movie's also really gory. I was shocked by like the amount of gore in this movie. Okay, this ain't Birds of Prey or even the first Suicide Squad movie. This movie is really gory. It's like those cheesy B zombie movies where like there's blood and guts everywhere. Like this movie is gory as frick. And yeah, at the very beginning of this movie, holy crap, does it set the tone? Because I mentioned people die in this movie, and yeah, people die in this movie. And let me just throw this out there, no spoilers, nobody's safe. Nobody. People die in this movie, okay? It's the Suicide Squad. I feel like it lives up to that name. Now, for some things that I didn't really care for, Harley Quinn. I really love Margot Robbie. I love her Harley Quinn. It's just that this movie, she was just kind of meh. She was just kind of there, you know? The movie does give her moments or whatever, but I don't know. I feel like Peacemaker and Bloodsport upstage her. Like they were the better characters compared to her. And even Ratcatcher is just better than Harley Quinn in this movie. Like, I don't want to say that Margot is going through the motions because she seems like she's giving it her all. It's just whatever they had her do in this movie just kind of felt meh. You know, I maybe we are like oversaturated with Harley Quinn and we've had so much of her that we're just kind of desensitized to her antics. But I'm not saying that I didn't enjoy her. I'm just saying that she just overall felt kind of, she was there. Cool. She's Harley Quinn, you know, okay. And regarding Harley, like certain things regarding her didn't make sense. Like, first of all, why is she in this movie? Like, think about it. She was saved at the end of the original Suicide Squad. You know, Joker broke her out of jail. Then in, you know, Birds of Prey, she was ripping and running the streets. She was free, you know. She never got arrested again at the end of that movie. So why is she back with the Suicide Squad? You know, the squad that's being forced on these missions or else their head will explode. Like, why is she here? That's not explained in the movie at all. It's not even touched upon. It seems like they just completely skipped over Birds of Prey and even the ending of the original Suicide Squad. It's like James Gunn said, no, we're going to retcon all of that and Harley Quinn's just going to be in the movie. And that for me didn't make a whole lot of sense. I only seen the movie once. Maybe something went over my head, but as it stands, it just didn't kind of make sense. Another thing, but a small thing that just didn't make sense to me was, you guys have seen this in the trailer where they say that Bloodsport put Superman in the ICU with a kryptonite bullet. When did that happen? You know, the last time we saw Superman was Justice League, or okay, the last time we saw Superman was Shazam technically, but beyond that, or before that, the last time we saw Superman was at the end of Justice League, and in Justice League, Superman's, you know, just came back from the dead. So what they're saying is he just came back from the dead and then immediately Bloodsport put him in the hospital with a kryptonite bullet, which, like, these things that they just say in this movie don't make a whole lot of sense. It seems like they just skipped over a whole bunch of stuff, and like we're in a time skip here and stuff just happens. And I don't know, I feel like this didn't make much sense. It's a small thing, like I said, but it's still there. Another funny thing that I would like to mention, because I just recently played through A Plague Tale: Innocence on stream on twitch.tv/thebirdman. That's a plug. I just recently played through A Plague Tale, and this movie is a Plague Tale. And if you've played that game, you know exactly what the hell I mean. I mean, between that game and this movie, I kind of feel like having the superpower of controlling rats is a pretty damn good superpower to have, just because that game and this movie say having rats at your disposal means you are the best. Overall, I thought this movie was fantastic. I had a great time watching this movie. It cracked me and my theater the hell up. The action was super dope. You had really, really funny jokes that landed. Like 99% of the jokes landed. Some great gags, and you know, you got Idris Elba just crushing it. John Cena's fantastic. I love John Cena recently. This guy has just been killing it when it comes to movies. This movie is worth all your money and all the accolades that everybody's throwing at it. The positives of this movie outweigh the very small negatives that I had, you know, Harley Quinn being met or whatever. But yeah, this movie's pretty damn good, guys. I definitely recommend you go check this out whenever you have a chance, or, you know, watching it on HBO Max if that's your jam. I'm gonna give The Suicide Squad an A-. Okay, the second movie we're going to talk about is Jungle Cruise. Okay, so Jungle Cruise is a movie set in the early 1900s. It's about a young woman searching for this tree called the Tears of the Moon. Basically, it's a tree whose petals can cure basically any disease. It can lift curses. It can, you know, cure illnesses, all that good stuff. And she wants the tree because it's going to revolutionize medicine. She acquires an arrowhead that will lead her to where the tree actually is, and she happens upon The Rock, whose character is basically a skipper, and he's the guy that, you know, takes jungle cruises. He takes tourists on cruises down the Amazon River, and, you know, tells really cheesy jokes during the actual cruise. And he's something of a con man. You know, he cons people into you know, getting his services or whatever. So the young lady happens upon The Rock, and she enlists his help in finding the Tears of the Moon, and now we got a jungle cruise. The first thing that I want to say is, wow, The Rock is great in this movie. He is so charismatic. As I mentioned earlier, The Rock is one of those actors that no matter what movie he's in, he's going to be killing it. Everybody else could be doing a shit job, but The Rock is going to be doing a damn good job. And it's just, you just like him. Like, I don't know what it is about The Rock. The Rock has been my favorite wrestler since I was a kid. But ever since then, it's just something about him. He's just always good. He's always funny. He's always charismatic. You always root for him, even when he's the bad guy. You know, it's The Rock. But the reason I'm saying this is because without The Rock, I feel like this movie would be a tier below. Like, the movie needs him. It relies on him. And he does such a good job that the movie is actually pretty good and enjoyable. Again, because of him. Emily Blunt is also really charming in this movie. I enjoyed her a lot, and I felt like her and The Rock had a lot of chemistry. Usually, you know, characters like these, it could come off kind of cheesy or whatever, but it works in the context of this film. There are a few, I don't know, like there are a few things that happen in this movie that you're like, this is the 1900s. You know, they said something that just kind of doesn't fit, but you get over it because it's a Disney movie and you're not really like caring. You know, you just turn your brain off or whatever. But yeah, I feel like these two have really great chemistry together in this movie. And you know, it's just funny to me that The Rock and the Fast and Furious crew just can't seem to get it to work, because like The Rock is so good and he like gets along with everybody. So it's just weird that for some reason the Fast and Furious crew just can't seem to get along with him. So, you know, I don't know, I'm going off on a tangent, but it just bothers me that he's so good and so charismatic and everything else except for the Fast and Furious franchise, which in the movies that he did appear in, he did a damn good job, but the actors don't want to work with him. It's weird. I don't know. Anyway, this movie is like really breakneck speed. It just jumps into the fray and it just doesn't really stop. I mean, there are some slow moments towards the second act of the film, but like, okay, the trailer that you see for this movie, everything that happens in that trailer, I think everything happens at the very beginning of this movie, like the very beginning. Like everything you see with the torpedo and the guy going illusion, that's all at the beginning of the fucking movie. And I appreciate that, you know, when movies just say, you know what, I'm gonna throw you into the action and let's just get this ball rolling. That's the way you draw in your audience so that they are there and awake and paying attention for the slow moments where the movie has to exposit and give you like the backstory and stuff. Another really great thing about this movie is the humor. Again, it's The Rock. He's crushing it as always. He's always funny and charismatic, but the humor in this movie is fucking good. If you've ever been on the actual Jungle Cruise ride at Disneyland, you'll kind of be familiar with some of the jokes being told in the movie, and you'll be familiar with the style of jokes that are told in this movie. Like, a lot of them are puns. And you know what? The puns in this movie are actually funny, okay? I don't remember The Rock telling one of those cheesy jokes and people in the theater not laughing. Like, we all laughed at those. Like, I had a few belly laughs, okay? This movie's freaking hilarious. And, if you've ever ridden the actual Jungle Cruise ride at Disneyland, it was those kinds of jokes. And that those kinds of jokes are hilarious. They even tell the back of a waterfall or the back of water joke that you probably heard a million times, or I've heard a million times, as I've ridden the Jungle Cruise ride so many times. But it wasn't just The Rock, it's also Emily Blunt. Emily Blunt is extremely funny in this movie. And, I don't know, movies recently have just been killing it with the humor, and that's how you do it. If you want to tell a simple, silly story like this, throw in some actual, comedic writers, get them in the writing room and let them tell funny jokes, and then let someone as charismatic as The Rock go out and execute it. And I feel like this movie did a really great job with that. Now, a thing that I didn't really care for in this movie was that it felt like a small scale Pirates of the Caribbean. It's like you got the charismatic person, The Rock or Johnny Depp. You've got the swashbuckling and the boats in water, and you got the enemies that are like half human, half animal or whatever. It really felt like Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't really know how else to say it. That's what it felt like. And I think most people will pick up on those cues. It's a Disney movie. Disney owns both properties. I don't know. This movie is not as good as, Curse of the Black Pearl or Dead Man's Chest. So if you look at it in those terms, it kind of brings the movie down a bit. And I did look at it in those terms. So for me, that's the impression that I got. And that's just how I felt about it. Basically the characters in this movie feel like the Pirates B team. You know what I mean? Like the guys that they didn't feel worked in a Pirates of the Caribbean movie. We're gonna throw them in Jungle Cruise. Like the people that were on the cutting room floor. That's what it feels like. And another thing, like regarding those characters, there's a twist in this movie that doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, it makes sense in the context of the film, in that, hey, this is what the film says happened, so it happened. But in the back of your mind, you're gonna be like, if I rewatch this movie, there are some things that kind of don't add up here. And I'm really trying to be vague as to avoid spoilers, but it's regarding The Rock and the way that he speaks. Like, for example, God, I'm really trying not to spoil this here, but he speaks in a certain way that doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm just going to leave it at that. And I will say also that this movie feels a little too long. Like, a lot of the exposition that was towards the end of the second act probably could have been cut out. I really don't know like exactly the areas that the movie could have been cut, but it just felt a little bit too long. I think the movie's somewhere around, I don't know, 2 hours and some change. Like this is a 1 hour and 30, 1 hour and 40 type movie. It didn't need 2 hours. Overall, this movie is a really fun popcorn movie. You can turn your brain off and just go and enjoy some fun puns, some jokes, some physical comedy, The Rock being charismatic, Emily Blunt being great. Beyond the fact that the movie is a little bit too long and things don't make a whole lot of sense, It's a fun time at the movies. You can take your kids there. They're going to enjoy themselves. Adults are going to enjoy themselves. There are a few very adult jokes. And what I mean by adult, I mean like X-rated jokes regarding a gay person in the movie. It's a little over the top, but you know, other than that, I think the movie's a good time. I do think it's a good time at the movies. I would recommend you go watch it. I'm gonna give Jungle Cruise a B. Okay, as I said at the beginning, the third movie that I'm going to review was one that I did on stream, so I hope you enjoy that. It was, you know, kind of off the cuff and for a live audience, but yeah, hopefully you enjoy this review of The Green Knight. What did I think about The Green Knight? I'm of two minds. Thank you, Alyosha, for the 10 bits. Appreciate you, as always. I'm of two minds, right? I'm a movie critic and I'm also a fan. But I honestly feel like I am more of a fan than a movie critic. So as a fan, I didn't care for it. As a movie critic, I thought it did a lot of things well. I thought Patel was great. I really enjoyed his acting. I believed him. You know, there are actors that you believe in a role, and this was one of them. I believed him as King Arthur's nephew. For that matter, I thought all the actors did a good job. I will say though, that the movie itself is just, it's overly pretentious, and that's a good thing for, say, a movie critic, right? Like, and the movie critic side of me thinks that's a good thing. I like that. But as a fan, it's confusing as fuck. The movie is confused. Like, if you look up confused in the dictionary, you will see a picture of this movie's poster. Okay, the movie's confusing as hell, and I rarely have, how can I say, like a hard time understanding and following movies. I rarely do that. Like I'm really good at digesting what I am seeing, and with The Green Knight, holy shit, dude, I could barely keep up with that movie. So I think that, you know, the general audience is going to have a hard time, you know, following the film, and for that reason alone, they're not going to like it. What else can I say about the movie? I think that the movie is beautifully shot. Again, that's the critic in me. You know, fans don't give a shit about that, but as a movie critic, God, the movie's gorgeous. It's beautifully shot. One thing I will say about the shots though is that they linger a little too long. And I see you, Nick. How many was that? Was that 10 gifted subs? Thank you so much, my dude. I appreciate you and I love you, man. There were shots that lingered a little too long, right? So let's say that I'm in a movie right now, right? And I go, why dost thou wearest thy mother's drapes? Okay. And then we're here. And do you see how long I'm pausing? And we haven't moved yet. And then to another scene. That's how long this movie lingers on shots. So I'm sitting there like, wait, hold up. What the fuck? Why is the movie like this? Like, who asked for this? So honestly, the movie feels like, how can I say? It feels like a storyboard, but brought to life. Like, they didn't really care about the plot making sense, at least for the general audience. And they just were like, look, the storyboard on this is great. Put that in the movie, which can be fine if it works. Like, you know, like what was the movie called? 2001: A Space Odyssey. You know, a movie like that can work, but in this case, I don't think that it did. So this movie is great for critics, but not for the audience. And I know I keep saying that, but I have to reiterate that. When I saw the trailer for it, it made it seem like this high fantasy action adventure film, and it wasn't. It's actually low fantasy. There's, I don't think, any action in the film one time, and it's super slow. It's one of the slowest movies I've ever seen, and it's confusing as fuck. I have to reiterate that. But I will say this. I've seen some people try to make a comparison to Blade Runner 2049, and I think that's a disingenuous comparison. I don't agree with that comparison. First of all, Blade Runner 2049 has action. It has things for the general audience as well as the critics, whereas The Green Knight only has shit for the critics. It's like, this movie is just not for regular people. Blade Runner 2049 makes, The Green Knight makes Blade Runner 2049 look like, I don't know, The Matrix Revolutions. Like, it makes it seem like it's just action fucking packed and a mile a minute. Whereas, you know, in Blade Runner 2049, it's still kind of a slow burn movie, but this movie is slow. So at the end of the day, I would say this ain't for regular viewers. You know, if you're going in to turn your brain off, eat some popcorn, this ain't the movie for you. It's just not. And I would say avoid it. Avoid it. If you're one of those people, check it out if you just need to see for yourself. The critic in me likes some of the things that it did, but because I think that I'm much more of a regular person, I can't say that I enjoyed the movie much. I would give the movie a C. I would give it a C, just because it does some things very, very well. And then the other things, like the plot making sense, moving the plot forward in the first place, lingering on shots, being super slow, and just the movie not it's confusing. Just all of that, it brings the movie way down for me. So that's what I think of The Green Knight. Hope I answered that question succinctly. All right, let me go ahead and switch over to this so we can play A Plague Tale: Innocence.